Greetings,
travelers.
Oh my gosh.
I like the new intro. That is probably my favorite picture of us. I know the second favorite is the other one on here, but us killing a hodag in old-timey clothes is probably one of my favorite things in the entire world. So
yeah, that's pretty epic. So oh my gosh, that was fun. I love watching that. So hopefully, look at us getting all professional. It's crazy. So
don't tell anybody, word will get out. So I'm super excited about this episode today because we reached out to some of our favorite guests and said, hey, would you join us? Because there is a little bit of controversy happening with the Conjuring house, and we got inundated with emails and questions, and we thought it was better to just kind of jump in and approach it from our side.
That was just it. I get a bunch of emails from you all. Thank you so much for sending those to us. But literally inundated with stuff about this one, right? This was kind of oh my gosh, so many people wanted to know about the Conjuring house and what our take was on the controversy. Now we're not going to get too much into that, just because I think we're just going to talk a little bit about history versus Hollywood and how things change and all that. So but let's bring on these amazing guests that we've already got back here backstage. So I'm going to be bringing them on real quick. I think I can hit the buttons right. So we've got some of our past favorites right there. We've got Stacey Brown from Finding Bigfoot fame and the Conjuring House Experiment, right? And then we've got Serenity Jenny there, who is riding along in West Virginia, I think, right? Is that where you're at now? Pennsylvania. Okay, up in that area. So stay safe from the storms. And then, of course, the incomparable Dave Spinks, paranormal investigator extraordinaire. So, oh my gosh, this is the team to talk about the Conjuring house. So, Jenny, I'm going to go ahead and mute you since you're riding. And then when you need to talk, just let us know. So, wave your hands or something.
So, Mark, because we've got all these amazing people, like I'm going to fangirl out here in a minute. I'm so excited. So many people. And I'm not even talking vampires with Stacey, which I really want to. But anyway, no, we're talking something else now. But I want to first, we need to jump in our way back machine, all five of us, and well, six, because Bo's in the background. And we need to talk about the history of the Conjuring house for those that may not know where this all started.
Now, I know Stacey and I have both been there at different times. So now Stacey probably has the most recent experience because mine goes way, way back. I went back.
That's why I said way back machine. Let's go.
All right. So way back machine, the farmhouse, what was built in the 18th century. Oh my gosh. And it's in Burrillville, Rhode Island, I think. It's been a while since I've been there. And it's basically just a farmhouse. It had a lot of bedrooms. It was just a really nice place. But there's a legend there that several Revolutionary War soldiers were killed on the property, never found. That's pretty much the basis for the historical haunting there.
Well, I thought it also, am I incorrect that of course it was Native American land because all of it was. Yeah. And there's rumors that there's a burial ground there. Is that correct? Incorrect? Where's the gauge on that? Stacey?
So to my knowledge, the only people that were buried there on the property are these soldiers.
Okay.
Right. Okay. But there was a battle there during King Philip's War. I think it's King Philip's. And a pretty bad one. So, the soldiers that died there during that were buried somewhere along the wall, according to my spirit box.
According to a lot of people who've investigated the place too. So, yeah. So then we skip ahead to the Perrin family moves into the area, right? They move into the house and they have a lot of strange experiences. My goodness, when did they move in? They moved in the 70s, right? And they get there and 71, January 71. And they move into this, beautiful house, 14 rooms. It's huge, with their 5 daughters. And strange things happen immediately. But usual poltergeist stuff, little things moving, little things just not where they should be, stuff like that. They even thought that things were kind of beneficial. Like one of the kids was talking about it would tuck them in at night and things like that. It was very, very strange, but it quickly, got spooky and things started getting scarier and scarier and scarier. And so they reached out to anybody who could help them. And of course, our favorite investigators from the 70s, the Warrens and Lorraine, show up, and they intermittently visit the house over and over again. And they say that the main spirit that's attacking them is the ghost of a witch who died on a nearby property named Bathsheba. And the parents had a dog named Bathsheba before they moved to this property that died under mysterious circumstances. So it's just how this stuff happens, right?
Yeah. But the stuff that happened, so if I'm understanding correctly, the Warrens showed up for one day, correct?
A few days. One day at first, and then they came back like a couple times, and they were convinced that it was Bathsheba was a Satanist who had murdered her children and was trying to murder these children. And eventually Bathsheba possesses the mom, and they had an exorcism to get rid of it. And that's the height of this before they moved to a property in Georgia, when they finally are able to get free.
Okay.
That the family still owns. So
Okay. But so the Warrens come and they end up writing a book about this. But the book has more things than the family said occurred there, correct?
Yeah, it's the book embellished, but again, the Warrens hired ghostwriters for their books, and they generally hired horror writers.
Okay.
So the horror writers blow stuff up to make it better, and it becomes, of course, it kind of disappears from the Warrens' history until the Conjuring movie, which is based 100% on their case. And it was only after the mother, Perrin, had finally passed away that the children agreed to let it be made into a movie.
Okay, so the time track is this happens with them. They move out. Another family moves in.
A few families move in and out. Yes.
Okay. Do they have the same situations happening?
I only know a few minor things, like, again, minor poltergeist type stuff. So
yes. So okay, go ahead.
But that was when I come into the picture. I had met Ed and Lorraine when I was investigating I wanted to know more about the infield poltergeist and stuff. And this was in the early 80s. And they actually told me about the house. And so that was when I went to the house and met one of the owners then. And they didn't let me in the house. So, but I just know that property was crazy at the time, just getting there. And I was a kid. My dad took me to a lot of weird places, thanks to having a Greyhound bus driver for a dad. So.
Okay. So we're in present time, and
so yeah, 2013, the Conjuring movie comes out.
Yeah,
it's huge, and suddenly the Conjuring house goes from a historical building to a mecca for ghost hunters, right? I mean, it had been on the radar, but it was kind of one of those, not Waverly Hills, not one of the major ones. But now it becomes this research mecca, and that's when I think about the time the owner you worked with, Stacey, picked it up, right? Was right around the movie time?
No, I think Corey bought it in like 2019.
Okay, yeah, 2013 was when it was starting to blow up. Yeah.
Yeah, we had investigated like the Bridgewater Triangle, and he That's when I first met him. He didn't own it at the time. And then he just called me one day and he's like, yo, bro, I just bought the Conjuring house. I was like, what? So it was, yeah, but I think that was like pre-COVID, because right as he opened up, COVID hit, and the Gestapo in Rhode Island shut it down.
Of course.
So
But now he was trying to make it where people could actively investigate.
Yeah, he wanted to make it a place where people could come, and he wasn't charging an arm and a leg, because at the same time, people coming in was furthering his research. Like Corey had the property, and I had even visited it before he had opened it up, but the thing of bringing people in and letting them look at it was the house will feed off of these people. And so therefore he's got cameras in every single room. He's got, audio running throughout the house 24/7. He was able to capture a lot of amazing stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't think the public still hasn't seen that will just blow your mind. Right.
Yeah. So he owns it up until when?
Like 2 years ago?
Yeah. It's like July 22. Is right when I think it switched hands, because that's when we were there, and Jacqueline was coming in. She came in and I guess was just nosy. I don't know what you want to call it. Maybe she's just wanting to see what we were doing. I don't know. Yeah.
Now you guys did the Conjuring House Experiments movie at that time, right? You guys were, since you had carte blanche to basically do what you wanted to on the property.
Yeah. And it was cool, but it was kind of, with her being there, I don't know that she was cool with all the things we were doing. But like Corey had made this agreement far before. It had been like 7 months for us to get everything ready, get the experiments ready, do all the research we needed to do for pre-production. And so, we were kind of like, should we not bury Corey in the yard? Is she going to be upset about it? And it's like, well, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is ask for permission, which she didn't care. She actually thought it was awesome that we were trying all these new things. It was more of like Corey's wife was upset that he allowed such things to take place. You know what I mean? Because it was so out of the ordinary, and they love that property. They love the house. And that's what it does to you. Like, that's another aspect of it. That house is like a living organism, in a certain kind of way, because it pulls you in. And I think all the BS is because somebody stayed there too long.
It's interesting. But Dave, you come from a different situation, because you had a house that had a lot of activity. So talk a little bit to that.
Well, like I said, like I told you guys, I never investigated the Conjuring house, but I have been up to the property and seen it, because I was speaking at the Rhode Island Paracon one year way back, and I went to the grave over there, Bathsheba and all that stuff. So, doing this for so many years myself, I wanted my own paranormal lab, as well. And that's what we all should be trying to do, is to further the field, right? Trying different experiments and doing whatever we can to see if there's a better way to gather evidence, if there's a better way to do what we're doing, or, to show people, hey, these things are real. They're all around us all the time, and so on and so forth. So I ended up out of the blue one day getting a call from the previous owner of the Willows Weep house, who had been attacked. Her and her husband had been attacked numerous times, and they were washing their hands with it, and asked me if I wanted to purchase the house. And I was like, ooh, I don't know, man, that's a pretty dark location, and I said, give me 24 hours and I'll let you know. So I thought it over, and I was like, well, doing what I do, what better opportunity would that be for me as an investigator as well, to own my own location where I can try to further the field some more and let other investigators come in and see what they get. And we can see what all matches up with all these different people's energies there, and, do all kind of good stuff for the field. And I ended up owning it, bought it in 2017, and just now demolished the damn thing, because a lot of people don't like that because it was a historical location. But when you have seen numerous people be spiritually, physically, and mentally attacked to where it affects their everyday lives in a very negative manner, the place we had it blessed numerous times and everything else, and nothing seemed to work. It would slowly come back harder and harder. And after a good friend of mine got attacked, who, by the way, still is having problems, 4 years, 4.5, 5 years later, actually got part of his foot cut off because of a weird scratch he got there. Doesn't know how he got it, from an unseen whatever. And then so when you own a location, so speaking of the Conjuring house, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to get a lot of negative comments. You're going to get attacked by all these naysayers, and out of the hundreds and hundreds of teams I had at the Weep House, the whole time I owned it, only one team said, "Oh, it's not haunted. We never got a thing there." And that's one thing I really want to talk about today on here is just because some Joe Blow team or person doesn't have an experience in a haunted location, absolutely does not mean it's not haunted. There's so many different ways to run down the rabbit hole with that situation too. Spirits will communicate with whoever they want to, and they're not going to do circus tricks, so to speak. You know what I mean? So if they don't like those people or that particular person, they may not interact with them. And one thing I loved about owning a place is you can spend a significant amount of time in it. Like when they did all those experiments in the Conjuring house, they were able to immerse themselves in a situation that only the people that owned the house previously lived there and were experiencing those situations as well. Obviously, common sense will tell you the more time you spend in a location, the more chances you're going to have to interact with something from the other side, so to speak, right?
Right. So, and that's exactly, I think we've all been to the May Stringer house down in Brooksville.
I knew somehow Mark was going to bring up the May Stringer.
I got to bring it up because it's another one of those.
I could almost time to when he's going to bring up that and Bruce Campbell. Those are the two that.
All right. They're but anyway, I can just say, they charge an admission fee because they have to. It's helping to restore the building. It's trying to keep it alive. And that's Waverly Hills, the Eastern State Penitentiary, all these places, they do charge a fee, and yes, that's okay. Yes, you want to support the research going on. We want to save the building if possible. There are some buildings that are beyond saving, right?
Well, and people don't understand, man. You got to pay someone to take care of the lawn if you're not there all the time. You got to pay taxes. You got to, there's maintenance to keep it semi-safe for investigators. There's all kinds of money that goes into these things, insurance, security. Security. And then you said they're like me in my case, they set up a whole Facebook page to attack me called Willow's Week Debunked. And they actually set it up for the previous owner, and said, "Oh, it's all about the money." Well, I only charge teams $250 to $300 for 12 hours in the house. Now you tell me what other places charge that amount of money. You can't find one that cheap. So,
And when you're talking about money for a place, here's the interesting thing is, I know there's some consideration around how much the owner of the Conjuring house wants to charge now, but the truth is you can charge whatever the heck you want to for something you own. It's whether or not people are willing to pay. You don't have to agree with something like that, but it's up to them. It's their property. So if I want to, for instance, charge people to go visit Mark's haunted house where the ghost leaves books everywhere, the books may or may not be left there when you come to visit. But I could charge $1,000 for people to come to Mark's.
That's right. Yeah, you can. And each state is more like Rhode Island, for instance. That's in a very expensive state, man. The taxes and stuff up there are outrageous. So, that's going to determine some of the fees the people that own these locations charge. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
No, agreed.
But that's what's happened is the movie hit, it became a moneymaker a little bit, not really, but it was like I said, he started it as a paranormal experiment house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the new owner comes in and wants a return on her investment. We get that. That's perfectly acceptable. We understand, and they happen to have a hit YouTube team come in and make a series of videos that went super viral, right? Went crazy viral. And that is when she's like, okay, well, if they're making this much money, I should be making this much money for every person who comes here. And that, I think, was what started the first controversy there, was that there was that. Now, the second thing that happened was they had a couple mediums on staff, but they weren't really, they were kind of on staff and they weren't on staff. It's a long back and forth story, and a lot of people started attacking them. And that's why, Jenny, I wanted to ask you real quick. Let me make sure you're able to chat here now.
Reply, that would be good.
Yeah, that would be good. So let's make sure you can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Perfect. Okay,
Awesome.
so now let's say as a spiritualist, as a medium and stuff, you don't just do that on like beck and call, right? You can't just turn it on if somebody says, hey, we need you to be our performer tonight and take these people on a tour. If the ghosts don't want to talk, they don't want to talk, right?
The energy has to be there for you to read. That is true. And sometimes things are quieter than others. I mean, you could go to the same location 15 different times and have 15 different experiences. That's true.
Okay. And that's why I really, because that's just it. Sometimes that was May Stringer has a couple people on staff, and they sometimes Jessie May wants to talk, sometimes she doesn't want to play, sometimes other things want to talk. Waverly Hills, same thing, and that's why I think we all see that. And I guarantee you that one night at the Weep, that one team was there, nobody wanted to play, right? That's
right. And there's,
right.
People bring energy with them too. So, you might have a super active evening with a tour group, and you do another tour the same evening and have a completely different result in the same day because of the synergy of the energy that's present there at that time. The people that are open, that maybe they're more open than others. Maybe you have skeptics. Some people are vibe killers. I mean, sometimes spirits just won't connect if there's a certain type of energy present. They're a little picky too.
That'd be great if they did restore Harder Hall there, Jake. Good comment.
Well, one thing I want to bring up, because, this gets touched on, and I said the word attraction. Going to a place that is haunted is, it is not like going to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, where you are walking into a house that already has actors set up to scare the crap out of you. And you see a movie like the Conjuring movies and think you're walking into like 24/7 poltergeist, which is not how any of these things work, regardless of how haunted, evil, whatever, spiritually charged, whatever the word is we want to use. I think people need to have the correct expectation when you go to a location, even if it's a hot location, so to speak, that has a lot of activity. That doesn't mean anything, because it's not like it's like the ghosts are like, oh, the guests are here. Let's scare the crap. Let's throw a plate at their head. Let's have blood come down the walls. Like, that's not how it works. So.
Exactly. That's the unfortunate side of the Hollywood side of this paranormal / horror movie connection. And it really started with Amityville, really. If you go back to Amityville and The Exorcist, those movies, they were terrifying, and they're all based off of some truth, But when Hollywood gets a hold of these things, they're going to twist it, they're going to turn it, they're going to make it into what they think is entertainment and to scare the bejesus out of you. And the general public really doesn't understand that in some cases, the real paranormal versus the Hollywood paranormal, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is nowadays. I mean, it's totally connected. It's pop culture, and that's what we deal with. I always tell people, like on a few of the shows I was even on telling my experiences, they added stuff that didn't happen. They switched my wording around, changed the events in the wrong order that they didn't happen in, and I was pissed because I was naive to that situation, being those are the first couple of shows I was on, and they're like, "Hey, man, you signed the fine print. You gave us permission to do whatever we want with it." So I have, me being me with integrity, I tell people, "Hey, remember that show? Remember this part?" And they're like, "Yeah." I said, "That never happened." They're like, "What?" And I say, "If you want the real story, just read my book. Read my book. That's the real story. Hollywood's Hollywood. Remember that." And the reason I don't have my own TV show because I refuse to fake anything. And it says right in the fine print that you may be asked to fake things, or if you don't get any legit evidence, you may have to fake things. And I refuse to sell out. I've been offered my own show 3 different times. And I could have been a multi-millionaire probably by now, but I turned it down because I won't fake anything.
Yeah, a couple of the documentaries we've all been on. They say, "Oh, can you say this for us?" Why would I say that? That never happened.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and they'll make you say the same thing 10 different ways for a sound bite, and then they can take it and twist it however they want later.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
and they like to cut stuff out of it. So that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on, Stacey, because you did this entire, you guys did and released a movie on the Conjuring house, but how long were you guys there for to get that amount of footage that was in the actual movie?
About 7 days.
Yeah.
So it was a week, and you got to figure we probably filmed close to 16 hours a day. There was just hard drive after hard drive of, cameras that we're going through. And I mean, the seance itself that's in the film, I think we cut that down to about 10 to 12 minutes, right? So it could segment through it good. But that was over an hour worth of a seance. You know what I mean? So, and it's just over and over like that, just going through. But you have to, if you're going to make something that's compelling, you got to be there, a little while. You can't just go there in and out and, hope you got it. I mean, you can, but like Dave said before, you got to immerse yourself in the place to where you can actually start getting stuff to happen.
And
then I'm sure you guys were forced to cut out some stuff that was really good, but you have to pick and choose when you're limited to a certain amount of time on a movie or an episode. A lot of times you got to get rid of some really good stuff because you only have so much time to show these things in. And that happens quite often on TV too.
Yeah, with the seance, I was like, let's just make a movie that's just a seance, because the seance was great the whole way through. There are things you didn't see about it that were just people would love to look at, but attention spans nowadays, for the most part, people want to get moving. You know what I mean? And keep it moving. And you can't dwell or hang on to parts for too long.
And that's one of the things when we're talking about Hollywood. So we have different versions. We have the movie kind of versions where they're taking a story they want to tell and making it into a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the TV shows and the documentaries. I'm doing quotation marks for those later listening to this, where they maybe cut the sound bites like we're talking about to show the story again that they want to show. And it's not the same as sort of the third group too. But the second group also, I think, encompasses a lot of the shows that get put on TV because nobody wants to watch 7 days, 16 hours a day of everybody at the Conjuring house having their interactions, filming stuff. But that's not what makes up quote unquote television. So they would want to put this down into smaller chunks, but then they want the stuff that's flashy and they want the stuff where it's tingling and people are screaming and running from the building.
Drama.
And then you have the other ones where you take a 7 day, 16 hours a day thing and you cut it down where you're showing what really happened, but you're only showing bits and pieces because that's what you have time for. But I think the problem with inherently all three of these things is the general public does not realize that they're not walking into one of these versions of the house or
the movie version. the movie version.
Well,
You know.
it goes back to the you walk into a museum, you see dinosaur bones. You don't want to sit there and watch an archaeologist unearth that for 2 years. When you see a masterpiece painting, you don't want to see that guy painting. You just want to see the painting, and that's what they all want, that end result as fast as possible, and the better it is, and that's why they follow the formulas and all that, which is. It's sad, but that's kind of what a lot of it has devolved.
And let's face it, the Conjuring house, it's an iconic house. I mean, there's, because it has got so much attention over the years. Of course, the Warrens were involved. And then what Andrea Perone wrote a really successful book about it as well. Yeah. Her side of the story and all that. And then the whole Conjuring series has blown up into a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah, they don't even call it the Ed and Lorraine series, even though it has nothing to do with the Conjuring.
Right, and it's all based off Ed and Lorraine's cases files, is all that is. And some of them overlap and interconnect. So, and then when Cody and his wife and them, they let it open to the public, I thought that was great, because then you got all these other investigators getting to go in there and see what they can get and what matches, and that's what it's all about. That's the real paranormal, to me anyway, in my personal humble opinion. And that's why I did what I did with my house, but I felt as a responsible location owner, I didn't want people getting hurt the way they were on my conscience, and that's why I tore the week down, And that's that's my property. I bought it. I can do whatever with it, that I wish. And a lot of people didn't like that, but that's just, too bad. They didn't buy it. They didn't spend the money on it. I did. And now the property is blessed and cleared, and there will be nobody else getting hurt in there, because there's no longer a place for anyone to go in to get hurt, And it's owned by a Native American now. So
nice.
That is
better.
Awesome. We're not going anywhere, but we have to take a quick moment pause so that our producer can cut this up later on the podcast. So here we go. Are we back? Okay.
There we go.
Oh.
Perfect.
I never know what's happening. It's okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, so we've talked about what has happened, but let's talk a little bit about going to places like this and doing investigations and potentially having mediums, that sort of stuff there. So I think we should start with, I don't know if Stacey or Dave, whoever wants to start with, if you want to go investigate a place, this is what you should be prepared to do.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. So if you're wanting to make an independent film, you need like $15,000 to $20,000. So there's that.
Yep.
Easy peasy.
Okay, so it's like I told my guys, right? I was like, listen, I done been there a couple times. I done spent some time there. And I was like, stuff's going to happen. The windows are going to slam. Chairs are going to rock. The doors are going to open. The books are going to come out of the shelves. We're here to make a documentary. We can't get caught up in chasing everything down, right? Like every single little noise we hear. We just ignore a lot of it. But you can't, if you're going to investigate some of these places, don't let preconceived notions get in your head. You don't want to fall victim to thinking, if you're looking for the truth as to what is happening there, you got to go in there with a clean slate. You don't know that anything is going on in this house. This house may just be all rumor and urban legend. So you go in there with an open mind. We didn't mention Bathsheba, and you end up finding a lot of stuff that way. And then you come away with a completely, like in my case, I came away with a completely different opinion of what's going on there than what everybody that's here would have. It's personal. All your interactions at a place are going to be personal to you, right? And that's okay.
So, Dave, what about somebody who wants to go visit a house like the Conjuring house, or back when you had your house, but any location, Waverly, all of these places that have gotten like notoriety? I think people go, oh, I want to go have an experience at Waverly or the Conjuring house. What is the
Well,
right view to go in and
so, so we have what I call commercial locations like Waverly and Tala and the old West Virginia Pen and some of these bigger things. Even the Conjuring House is kind of a commercial location now, especially now because it's so well known and so many people have gone to it. That's a bit different than just going to say you get a call from a family that needs help because they're experiencing some kind of weird paranormal phenomena going on. That's a whole different ballgame in my book. Now, one thing I don't like is when they jam pack these locations full of 50, 100 people and they're telling people, oh, you're doing a paranormal investigation. No, you're not. That's a dog and pony show to me. Okay. You've got 50 people running around making all kind of noise. You're more than likely not going to get no real paranormal evidence at all because it's just too much interference going on. I think he's right too. Go with an open mind, open yourself up to the energy, but be careful. Make sure you know how to protect yourself because there are some bad energies out there that will mess with you. Trust me. I will tell you that firsthand. But try not to let the preconceived stuff get to you. That's exactly right. He said it exactly right because if you go there with a pre-forethought of, oh man, this place is demonic, then you could accidentally bring in some negative energy to yourself from somewhere else. You don't know. So you got to go in with an open mind and do your own thing and open yourself up. And you may have a really life-changing experience at some of these locations. But if you're more apt to have a better time and better chance to have a good experience if you're not around a ton of people in one of these giant commercial locations, so to speak. Small groups is fine, but not 80 people, 40 people in a little tiny location. You know what I'm saying? So I've done events. I put on events like I did an event at Tower one time. And since that place is so massive, what I did is divide everybody up into groups of 5 and put one group on each floor. And then we rotated like every hour and a half. So you got to experience the whole place with a small group of people. So you got to think outside the box when you put on these big events like that. The weep, I always encourage teams not to have more than 5 people in there at a time because it's a small place, So, it's each place is different. Each place has its own energy, its own history, and there's so much more to it. So many ways you can go down a rabbit hole with this stuff.
yeah. So,
Jenny,
yeah.
what type of protection do you recommend for what attitude would you recommend going into a place that has a negative history like this?
So the first thing that I would recommend is to be self-aware. So meaning that you're aware of how energy affects you. If you're a first-time person and you're going somewhere really hot, like Erika said, you're probably going to have something happen. People aren't prepared often. I've been on locations where people have melted down, have reacted, have had emotional and mental health issues happen because they have had something happen to them. I've had people show up drunk. I've had people show up high. That's a really bad recipe for a paranormal investigation. People don't realize that affects the vibration of your actual energy. So, sometimes couples show up fighting. Like that's going to really make that investigation go in a probably a bad way. So, people have to be dismissed from investigations we've been on before because of that. We've had to stop the investigation and talk to people about that. So, going in with an open mind, a clear mind, and also like the perception of how energy affects you. Like you have to be able to perceive how it affects you. Are you empathic? How do you get stuff? Like, what do you know about yourself? A lot of times people, they're first timers. They're like, I have no idea what I'm getting into. So we actually explain things to people. We take just a brief time to kind of educate them how things can potentially affect them. And if there is an issue, if you get dizzy, if you get scratched, we prep them a little tiny bit for what could happen because some people are just, they want to experience, they saw it on TV and they want to experience something. So that's great. We want to teach them and help them learn and have an experience too. But there's some big rules to going into an investigation. And a lot of people, in my experience, have thrown those rules to the side and had some really bad circumstances happen to them.
Oh, it makes sense. I want to talk a little bit. There are 2 points. So, Ginny, one point I want to talk about is having people who are mediums or can empathic and stuff along your journey. What should that mean to somebody going into an investigation?
So a lot of times, people will come to an investigation, say they're sensitive, say they're a medium, say they're, psychic, and all of us are psychic. That's the ability to perceive information, perceive energy with extrasensory abilities, right? So how far along on that journey someone is actually the most important question to ask. How long have you done this? Have you done this other commercial locations? What has your experience been? When I assess people, I have to assess mental stability. And in addition to any psychiatric issue, when I'm working with somebody on developing their gifts and abilities, so somebody could come into an investigation and say, I'm a medium. Well, in 30 hot seconds, they're going to melt down because they have no real experience. They might have had a precognitive dream once, talked to their grandma, grandpap, and they are saying they're a medium. So it's our job as responsible, experience holders. If we host an event, it is our responsibility. I've been to massive events where I've been asked to read and do the walkthrough prior to whoever the group is that's hosting it. I've seen people mix alcohol with things. That's a really bad thing to do. I've had untrained empaths, untrained mediums really pick up some nasty attachments like that because they got, let's say, a little big for their britches, right? No real experience, boots on the ground experience, but they say that that's what they are. And you can take them for their word. But at some point during that investigation, if it is a really heavy location, you're probably going to have some issues with them, or their past trauma too has a lot to do with this. So from a psychological perspective, if you take somebody into any location, there's been a lot of rape or torture or abuse. If that person has had that in the physical in this lifetime, there is a possibility that they can be triggered and they may have a psychotic break. I mean, these are things you got to think about, and you have to be equipped to deal with them on the spot. So, lots of things can happen. People can get attachments. You can have mental health crises. You can have some really bad recipes for disaster if you don't assess and vet who's all coming into the location with you.
And that's when you're dealing with the public, if you have a team and you're doing your own thing, you guys should already know who has what and who can deal with what and who can't deal with that, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's a whole 2 different ball games there.
Right. Yeah, you gotta vet your teams that you're going with and all that. That's a whole other episode. So.
Yeah, and one other thing, because Stacey said something earlier, not about vampires, but he said something earlier that I thought was very interesting, which was you talked, Stacey, a little bit about the house itself and what happens if you're on that property for too long, right? And what that does to somebody being in a place that has some of the negative connotations the Conjuring house has had.
Yeah, so I don't know, with the Conjuring house, it seems that almost people who don't actually own the place will get they'll get possessive about the house. This is mine, I think it was day 4 or day 5. I was ready to go to blows with RPG. Wow. Right. I seriously just got that angry, and it's I gotta, I just need to take a break from this place because for us, it was more of, or I guess for me, I could only speak for me, but it's, you got a lot of stress. You're trying to do whatever you're doing. You saved up money to do this. And then now when it's time to do it, you think you're all, happy-go-lucky. You're doing these fun things, but then you go to sleep and you don't really sleep in this house. It's the dreams that come to you in the middle of the night. So you're waking up tired, and I don't know. To me, the longer I stayed in that place, the harder it was to leave and the nicer it was to be to a person. Your fuse or my fuse get super short. May not be the same for everybody, but like I said, this is my experience, but I've seen it with like Bill Brock and like with Corey. Corey was like, hey, I don't stay here longer than 10 days. I leave, because Corey's seen it firsthand because COVID happened. And so then he's there and he's not able to leave. So he's door dashing everything to his house that he needs. And then he's just coming up with it in his head. I don't actually need to ever leave this place, and now you've got husband and wife snapping at each other. You've got Bill and Corey snapping at each other. And I think exposure to a place like that, almost like a radiation sickness, kind of
one of the things Corey and Jen mentioned when they sold the house to Jackie was don't stay here. You can't live here. That's the only rule is no one can live here.
And that was through multiple ones. There was a guy named John who was working there after a while when Bill had to split. And it happened to every single one of them.
Yeah.
That itself is interesting because I think we don't talk about that enough is what happens at these places and that they're not. I mean, some people are like, whatever, but I think there are people that, to Jenny's point, there are people that are lodestones that can go into a place and it literally deadens. I mean, Mark's beautiful wife, Carrie, was like that for the longest time. Like you bring her into a place, nothing would happen. Literally inside the place. It would just stop. Like she would
literally stay outside when we would go places because she knew I was with like a YouTube team or something and she'd want things to happen for them. So she would stay outside just because. But now some stuff's happening with her. So
yeah. So, now we've broken that barrier for her.
Serenity? Yep.
It's interesting too, like to speak to the point that Stacey was saying, like the longer you stay there, you have to think about this, at least from my perspective. We have the intention, we're going in to study spirit, right? P.S. Spirit is studying you, your cracks, your soul fractures, your traumas. If it's demonic, it's going to learn your weak points. It's going to learn how to manipulate you. It's going to learn how to use you, and it's going to learn how to oppress you. Then it will possess you. That's how the attachment process goes. So, Dave and I have had extensive conversations about this experiences he's had and analyzed them. And, he's written books about them. And I have seen the progression in another location we were at too. The longer we were there, the more it works on certain cracks and fractures in the soul. So, I mean, you have to be super aware. If you're going to be an immersive type of investigator, you better be aware of your own soul fractures and what trauma points you have and how you're healing them and where you are so you can't be manipulated. It's very difficult. That stuff sneaks up on you so fast. I have whipped the bottle of frankincense at Dave at a location that is no lie. Dave, you can concur, my friend.
Yeah, she did. You. I mean, it's like Stacey said, it's like your fuse gets really short and you just flick a switch, man, and you don't even know what happened. And you're like, what the hell just happened?
And he's extremely intelligent. He's a brilliant man. But I was like, you're getting manipulated. He's like, no, I'm not. And I said, babe, you are being manipulated. And what he was talking about wasn't even relevant to the location. It was literally about another location. I said, you're speaking about another location. There's an entity here that has you pegged. And this went on for 6 hours. Hour 6, I'm done.
Back and forth.
Frankincense across the room. I'm like, I'm finished with this.
They will affect you for sure.
And we've gotten to those points, but that's how you learn, and that's how the bone doesn't break in the same place twice. We're aware. We're hyper aware. We have code words. We're aware of the trauma points. Yep. I mean, we're humans. I mean, we're here in a human vessel. We're doing this work. We're aware of it, but it still doesn't mean it can't happen. It can happen to anybody. I don't care how trained you are.
Yep. Yeah. And that goes for any investigation anywhere, not just ghosts, not just haunted locations. Correct. I mean, Stacey, and Dave, we've been on Bigfoot hunts, and that happens out there. You just get out in the wild, and it just after a little while, the tempers start to get a little shorter, and you don't even realize it. And that could be just the heat, could be just being out in the the roughing it, but it can also be something else is messing with you. And that's, you know, because we've been in areas that Ocala National Forest, I don't know. I don't like being out there. I never go alone. I mean, but that's me. I'm epileptic. I can't go anywhere alone. But it was just, I always, even when I'm with somebody, I'll start noticing, wait a minute, that they're not acting like they normally do. So it's just.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think to the, you know, the point there is also, if you're going to do these things, there is some legitimacy that we need enough food, we need enough rest, we need enough liquid. Like there are like bodily things that you also need, that you start pushing those barriers outside of any other barriers you have. And to Stacey's point, if your quote unquote sleep is really just having nightmares and being woken up and messed with in the middle of the night, you're not going to be at your best, even in the best circumstances in the world. You know, the human doesn't get enough food and sleep, you start having issues. And then in these places, and I think I would love to know what you guys think to this, because me and Mark talk about this a lot, is people assume these places are really bad, right? Now, whether they're bad or not, but assume this negativity belt that goes with going to these places. I want to know how much, you know, because Stacey, you talked about, and then Dave, about not going in with the idea that something's happening, but I think people do, and they expect this level of evilness or demonicness or whatever to be at these places. How much, and maybe this is a Jenny, do you think they drag in doing that, walking into a place going, this place is going to be horrible?
Well, so like she said, you know, they're studying you, right? So if you're coming in with that preconceived notion, it's almost like you're manifesting these things to happen. Now, it also helps to not do like Aleister Crowley chants, you know, but you can, you know, if
it made great television for you, Stacey. It made great television for you.
It did do that. But you know, you can manifest what you're wanting. You know, if you're wanting to be a happy-go-lucky thing, then chances are you're going to have a happy-go-lucky experience. But if you go in there thinking it's demonic, you're scared of everything. You know, you're starting to do certain things to protect you from that. And then meanwhile, it's like they're just sitting there like, yeah, I got you, cuz. You know what I mean?
The negative entities, they feed off fear anyway. So, you know, that's another issue that people have. And some people are out there just to get, they're thrill seekers, right? We all know that. You know, that's why people go to horror movies. They go to amusement parks. They want a thrill. And being scared shitless is a thrill to some people, you know. And there are people that constantly go after that thrill. And a lot of those people are out there in the paranormal and call themselves investigators, and they're essentially really thrill seeking is what they're doing. You know, weekend warrior types that go out on their weekends off and they go, oh, well, let's go to Tala this weekend, or let's go to the Conjuring house, or let's go to this house, because they want to be scared. They want, or they are on their own journey like all of us are too, and they want to know some of the answers to man's greatest questions. What happens to us when we die? Are we alone in the universe? Are there unknown creatures walking among us? So there's so many different avenues. Or they are dealing with a loss of they're grieving a loved one and they want to know they're okay. So by going to a haunted location and they have an experience, then they can say, okay, maybe there is something else after we die. You know, it's not just you're dead and that's it. Your energy, your soul, it moves on. You know, and we turn into a different type of being at that point. You know, it's all interrelated, all of it.
And that's the thrill seekers, or the, you know, the YouTubers out there are just there to get the clicks and to get the likes and to get scared. It looks so good on camera, and that's what they want. They all want to be the guy in Vegas. We get that, and that's why you go to these locations, because they've got a name, they've got a presence. They've got a history that you can take in. They got great hashtags, right?
Oh, you wouldn't believe when I closed the weep, people were messaging me, I'll pay you $5,000. I'm like, no, dude, it's not worth it to me, man.
And everybody's on a journey too. So we're all at different parts on our journey. Some people like the thrill seeker. Some people chase trauma. That's a real thing. People create and recreate trauma after trauma after trauma to have that comfort level in that trauma, have that fear. That speaks to sometimes some significant psychological or emotional issues. And people don't even realize that. And then, you know, they start understanding themselves through the experiences they're having. So then their journey elevates them. So then they start asking bigger questions, going into multidimensional reality theories, things that are more expansive, and it leads to more things and more questions. And, you know, it's this metaphysical journey, this journey of energy and spirit that we're all on, and everybody's at a different place on the path. It's quite fascinating. And we live this. People say all the time, I would give money to sit and listen to what you guys talk about at dinner. And I'm like, oh my God, I do not want reality TV at my dinner table. Like, I need like a hot second. Like, I just need, like, right now I'm going in between places and trying to get on the show. And just because things are so busy, because people do have disturbances in their house, kids are affected. I mean, this is what we do every single day. And those families, they're terrified when they call. They are terrified. I mean, people are getting their hair pulled, stuff's flying across the room at their daughter, and their pets are dying. There's some significant traumas that occur from these things, and we work really hard to help people understand what's happening. And then those people are often on a journey themselves because they have had an experience, and so they tell their story, and that's how everybody learns and heals. It's so fascinating.
And when it comes to this paranormal drama that seems to go, it kind of goes in cycles, right? You know, and it's unfortunate, and people get really nasty, especially if they think their money is being messed with or whatever. And, you know, we as humans, we don't always get along with everybody. I mean, that's normal. You know, if you can't get along with folks, just cut ties with them. Don't attack them. Don't threaten to sue them. You know, just go your way and they go their way. You know, not everybody's going to mesh up. It just doesn't happen like that. And sometimes there are some people doing some bad stuff, like, you know, not paying people and everything else. It wasn't that long ago, a famous producer was stealing money from like 20 of the biggest names in the paranormal. And he was, next thing you know, he's on the run from the wall, hiding down in Florida. And he owed some of these big names hundreds of thousands of dollars that he stole and shot it up his veins or snorted it up his nose. You know, so there are some bad people out there in this field and in the entertainment side of it that take advantage and do bad stuff. And it's unfortunate. So, you know, there's no reason to, you know, hack on people and say they're in it for the money or they're stealing money or they're doing this and that. Just cut ties, man, and go do your own thing. You know, it's just you guys most people have no clue all the crap I've been through with some of these people, man. They're just accusing me of some of the most heinous things you can imagine, and to the point where I wanted to go choke somebody out. You know what I mean? You know, and it takes a lot for me to get to that point. But when you start bringing my kids into stuff, you know, no, you're barking up the wrong tree. So I've had crazy stalkers too. Me and Jen had to get 3 different law enforcement agents on some of these agencies in 3 different states. I mean, there's some wackadoodles out there, man. So, you know, don't get online and start slamming people, calling them their methods are fake or you're going to sue them and all that crazy stuff. Just cut ties and go your own way, man. You know,
exactly what I wanted to say is there was so much controversy about some of the techniques and stuff like that were used there. It's like, hey, they're techniques, man. We don't know what works. That's why we're all studying this.
Right. Try different stuff, man. Try different stuff. As long as you have, and it's all like with me and Jen, Mark, it's all about intent with us. If you're a good person and you're trying to do things the right way, not cheating and not faking things, then you're a great person to us, you know, and you try to help people and do things like that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are intentionally faking things and stealing and doing this, that, and the other, then you're a bad person in my book. And that's what it comes down to. It's really common sense. Yeah. And you know, I had every right. I had myself as a location owner, all the attacks I had every right to go all over the internet and just slam these people. But did I? No. every now and then I'd put up, like a picture of troll spray or something, just to, do something back to them without saying names and stuff like that. I said, the troll spray is needed today or whatever, and so it is what it is, man. Just, if you can't get along with each other, just cut ties and go do your own thing.
Yep. And then, like Stacey, you guys did a bunch of new techniques in that Conjuring House experiments. That was stuff I'd never seen before, except maybe I think you'd done a little bit of it in that one down at the Crowley House. But that was amazing stuff. And again, some people gave you flack for that.
Well, people are going to give you flack for putting your pants on a certain way.
Yeah, that's right.
So you got to just do whatever. And I think me really not being a paranormal investigator, more of a Bigfoot investigator. I got into it after my dad passed away. Like he was saying, that was my thing. Then when I got confirmation, I just kind of kept going. But I surrounded myself with ghost hunters, so they could have input on the ideas that I was spitting out, because I'm spitting out all this stuff. And I'd only looked into limited, my knowledge on it was so limited. I'd only looked into certain people, and they were all like, yeah, you really kind of shouldn't look into that dude. Let's leave the Aleister Crowley stuff out of here. But I guess in a way, it helped me out, to come up with those new experiments, to not being a paranormal investigator, so to speak.
Yeah.
For us, it's all interrelated, though, Stacey. Like, a lot of this stuff crosses over so much. And, a lot of people, it wasn't, when I first started doing this, you couldn't mention like Bigfoot and UFOs in the same sense, or you'd be ousted by both communities,
Right.
But as a true investigator, you got to think outside the box. And then you'll come across cases that there's a rash of Bigfoot sightings in an area, right? And then at the same time, there's a rash of strange lights in the sky. What's going on here? Or right. I've had it vice versa too, with UFOs and abductees also having paranormal stuff going on in their house at the same time, stuff flying across the room. And I get to the house and they say, well, I have these dreams of these little gray creatures and I float through my ceiling every night. So I'm like, wait a minute here, what's going on here? So right. You'll run into cases like that from time to time, and you're not doing yourself due diligence if you're not thinking outside the box, looking at all this stuff as crossing over and interrelating with the same type of phenomena, right? So the longer you do it, the more experiences you're going to have, and you're going to come across these really out there cases and go, whoa, man, there's some major crossover going here.
And that's kind of what I left the Conjuring House thinking, right? So I guess if you're in the upside down, right?
You're right.
Like certain places that were just like a beacon. And then it was all these things were drawn to it, whether it be UFOs, ghosts, because we had all three Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs stuff go on while we were there.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of, it was like a moth to a flame. And the house was the flame.
Yep. And it's some of those areas that most of them have Native American ties because they know where the energy centers are on this planet, and they were drawn to those. A lot of it has to do with that. Jen will tell you all about that if you want to know on another episode. But I mean, it's fascinating stuff, and just knock the drum off, guys. Let's go. We're all trying to do the same thing and get the same, get good results. Don't get along with people, just cut ties with them, go your separate ways, man. They don't pay your paycheck. You don't have nothing to prove to them.
Exactly. And when you're dealing with volunteers and dealing with things like that, just it's time to walk away. Just walk away. So oh my gosh.
I want to say real quick as we wrap up, because first of all, thank you all for being here. I love that you came on. I love that you brought your knowledge and all that. But we always say this. Nobody is an expert at this because it's preternatural and we don't know everything. So everyone on this call, save myself, has a lot of experience and knowledge, but there are no experts. So when you're looking at something, understand that this is something we're all still learning about. Every single one of us, except for me, who will not go into any of these places. Nope, thank you very much. I'm good. I'll watch on the outside with popcorn for you guys. I'll be the plucky comic relief when you need a break. But
yeah, you and Carrie stay outside, and we'll all go in and get the pictures. And
yeah, no, it's fine because mine for different reasons than Carrie. But I love that you were all here. But I just want the audience, travelers out there, to know, like, if you're going into this, you got to go into it for the reasons that are your own, and you've got to not expect things, because this is not something that is like laid out like clockwork. And if anyone tells you they're an expert at this, that is an impossibility. They could be experienced, but they are not an expert. And that's my words of advice on this. Mark, go ahead.
Well, let's let everybody do some shameless self promotion. So let's go ahead and start with Jenny down there. Where can people find and follow you?
You can find me on socials at Serenity Jenny, serenityjenny.net on the web. My phone number's on there. You can text me if you need to ask me a question. I try to get back to most communication myself. If not, my assistant will. Yeah, we have a ton of events coming up. I'll mention Gettysburg at the end of the month. We'll be at the Battlefield Bash. I think you guys will be there as well. Dave and I both will be there. We have some, I think Saratoga Springs you're coming up to, right, Dave? You're going to be at
Yeah, I don't know the date, so just I'll give them my website.
We have some really fun stuff, and we'd really like to connect with you guys, so hit us up. It would be awesome. And you can get my book, Unapologetically Authentic, on Amazon.
Very cool.
Great. All right, Dave, where can I find you?
You guys can find all my stuff on www.davespinkspi.com. I had to shorten my website. Used to be Paranormal Investigator, but it's now davespinkspi.com. You can see all the events I'll be appearing at, all my books, and upcoming things that me and Jen are doing, ethereal excursions. We do events with folks all over the country at haunted B&Bs and stuff. Low numbers, real small numbers. We love working with a small number of people. Just look us up, man. We do all kinds of stuff. We're all over the place.
All right, Stacey, you're up.
Oh,
nope, you're muted.
You're muted. What happened? Where'd you go?
I muted myself. I'm a moron. But anyway, so one thing before I plug myself, you say nobody's an expert, but then you say that Twilight vampires are the strongest vampires there are. So, practice what you preach is all I can say.
Prove me wrong, Stacey. You haven't proved me wrong yet.
But yeah, I got a new film out. It's called Bigfoot: The Journey to Belief. It's full of interviews, a 4-part series, and we uncover a government cover-up in the state of Florida with the skunk ape. And, if you don't want to rent the movie, they have like 73,000 emails pertaining to skunk ape and Bigfoot, and they want $12,000 for the emails. So if y'all could go to thejourneytobelief.com, we have a GoFundMe up there. Anything helps. As soon as we get those emails, we're going to make them public to everybody through our website. And because I don't have time to go through 73,000 emails, but we're hoping the people out there are interested enough to do that. Besides that, Bigfoot Stacey, YouTube, anywhere else, just look me up.
Yep. And I cannot wait. I watched that, and man, that was incredible. And that was the same wall I hit. Yeah, now I hit the same wall when I was researching Ocheesee Pond that you did. So the exact same wall. The notes from that one day, the day when it all happened, the governor's notes are gone. What?
Yeah,
crazy.
right.
But anyway, so yeah, definitely check all those guys out. We'll put all the links in the show notes. So thank you all again so much. I know we just kind of had to hit this because it's blowing up online. Again, we're not taking sides. We're just saying, hey, there's 2 sides to every story, and we're just bringing our side, which is yet a third side in this. So, but we've all seen this happen, and we don't want to see it happen anymore, right? That's what it's all about. Let's put positivity out there, and we got enough negative going on in the world. We don't need it in the paranormal field. But Erika, any last words before I take us out?
No, I will be impressed to see if you can get there. Just saying.
All right. Well, gang, once again, thank you all so much for joining us. We really enjoyed doing this live. For those of you on the audio program, thanks again for tuning in. Like and share, and definitely follow all our people here and reach out for our sponsors and thank them. But for all of the rest of you, make your trips, plan ahead, bring your friends, go and explore these haunted locations. Go to those amazing places. If they are your bucket list, it doesn't matter the drama. Go there, experience it. Remember the history, remember the energy that's there, and feel all that and get your own experience and get your own feeling when you come out. And then when you do, just make sure to make sure you clean yourself and take a breath. Because if you feel that little short temper going, or if you feel like you were there just a little too long, well, it's time to take a deep breath, center yourself, and we'll see you on the other side.